My name is Noelle Joyner. It is September 6th, 2022, and I am doing the Unit 1 presentation, and it's covering basically the history and the rules of modern genetics. And one of the most focused on topics of modern genetics is genetically modified organisms, which also can be called GMOs. And so the article that was talked about in this presentation was called Genetics-Based Methods for Agricultural Insect Pest Management. And for like an abstract on what the article is about, the article's genetics-based methods for agricultural insect pest management included like the difference in resistance for insecticide and pest, the sterilization of insects for new safe strategies that lessen insect population in crops. And they also had a lot of background information to inform the audience on the process of sterilizing insects and the techniques to reduce agricultural pest population. And they would release these sterile insects out en masse so that they would compete with the wild insects. And then the type of species they used included the diamondback moth and the Mediterranean fruit fly, and they had the dominant lethal genetic construct. They also explained the main resistance management methods, which is high-dose refuge strategy, and this requires toxin-free crops for near the crops that have the insects, and then have as well as the toxin doses sufficiently high enough to kill wild types and insects that are heterozygous for the resistant allele. And they also outline the policy considerations in taking genetic insect control systems throughout the field. They elaborate on the need for new innovations to deal with the emerging agricultural pests and the diseases that are increasing as time goes. And they basically concluded that this article revealed that some of the genetic modification technology described in the present are being reviewed and proven to work in the field, although they have to constantly change it because there's always going to be pests that can adapt to it and develop a resistance to it. And they also mentioned that other waves of molecular methods are being applied to disease-transmitting mosquitoes, and this is beginning to reach over to agriculturally important species, and the attention is being given to regulatory aspects to enable the safe and appropriate implementation of these biological genetics-based strategies, and collectively just the development of GMOs to advance the outcome of having less insects in the crops, and it would in turn have a tremendous agricultural and socioeconomic benefit for people who farm and make a living off selling crops. And in my opinion, overall, this article was very interesting to read. I did know a little bit about how insecticides have been developed over time, because insects always usually develop a resistance at some point, so they'll genetically modify their corn to be more of a repellent for certain types of bugs, or in this case they sterilize certain insects. So that was an interesting point of view.